finally, we are getting the grid forming here at the Podium Mandalika circuit in Indonesia. Pramac Ducati await their man, Jorge Martin and Johan Zarco, both going from the front row of the grid. Brad Binder. There's going to be some nerve jangling now because, as we mentioned, we can't overemphasise, this is a complete blank canvas, a complete journey into the unknown for these guys. They've never raced before here in Mandalika. They've certainly got very little experience of wet weather conditions. In some respects, it might be a bit of a lottery, but it's certainly going to provide some nail-biting entertainment. We hope you have stuck with us over the last hour and a half or so when our coverage for MotoGP started. I'm sure you have. Why would you go anywhere? It's the greatest motorsport show on earth as we look at Enea Bastianini starting from the middle of that second row. Binder and Bastianini, Lewis, in the dry, you really fancy them to be strong given they've excelled in the Doha from really good qualifying performances. Let's quickly pop down to the grid again. Piero Taramasso and Michelin, they've been thrown an 11th hour curveball, haven't they, by these tricky conditions? Simon's with the Michelin Motorsport manager, Piero Taramasso.
Yes, Piero, some new conditions for you to make the weekend even tougher. Can you tell us what tyres the riders will go for?
Yeah, in this condition, the choice is medium front and medium rear. This is the one because the track temperature is still quite high, is around 25, 26 degrees. And also because here, the tricky point is the overheating on the right side. With the soft compound, the problem that you might overheat too much, you lose grip. With the medium, will be much more stable. So this is the best choice for this condition.
Thank you, Piero.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks to Piero Taramasso. We're just running through this revised grid now, of course, revised, sadly, because 8 times world champion Marc Marquez has been ruled out of this delayed Indonesian Grand Prix. There is the president then, Mr. Joko Widodo, who is finally, after all of his effort and all the effort of the authorities here in Indonesia, it looks like, thankfully, we are going to get MotoGP action here in Indonesia for the first time since 1997.
Well, the Shaman certainly did the trick in the end. We got the race we were hoping for.
Yeah, whatever that lady's name was, get her inducted into the MotoGP Hall of Fame very, very quickly, because, yes, it does look like the rain banisher, or whatever she was called by the locals. She normally goes to big events like weddings and parties.
She'll be getting a position at the FIM, I think. She'll be taken to every Grand Prix over the course of the year now to try and ward off any potential wet races or cancellations. So we're about to get underway then for this Indonesian Grand Prix, and Enea Bastianini goes into it as the championship leader. Let's get a word from Grassini with Simon.
Yeah, that was a key word you said there, championship leader. That's why I've come to see Michele Massini. Michele, he's done so well, Enea, for the first race, all the way through this event, put himself in a good position on the grid, looked good in FP4. Now, completely different conditions. How does he feel about the wet?
Yeah, now it's difficult to predict how does it go the race, because still a lot of water on track. There is a big patch in some corner, but for sure this is the same condition for everybody, and we don't make any practice on this condition. So we will see. We start from the second row. This is good enough, but we have to learn lap by lap what we can do.
How does Enea feel about rain condition riding?
Not so bad. Not so bad. We have to improve in this point, but we have a good base on the rain.
Thank you and best of luck.
Thank you to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Michele Massini from the Grassini Ducati team. Can they continue their stellar start to 2022? Alex Rins, not quite sure that it's sunglasses weather right now for the Suzuki man, but I guess just trying to keep himself focused, trying to hide some of the nerves that will inevitably be hitting these riders. This is nerve-wracking stuff. This is tense. This is where these guys are really, their skills are put to the limit, their concentration, their focus, because they're just about to encounter a racetrack in conditions that they've never experienced before. It's a bit of a level playing field, this, isn't it? It's going to be a case of fortune favouring the brave. Jack Miller, normally he revels in these kind of conditions. Even Thriller Miller looks a little bit pensive as we count down towards race time here in Mandalika.
Yeah, just 6 minutes to go then. Speaking, of course, earlier on, we were discussing the potential strategies that might be deployed in a dry weather race, and the big talking point, I suppose, was Fabio Quartararo's determination, I think, to get to the front of the race and get a clear track, with the Ducatis looking to stop him doing so. In many ways, even though it's a wet race, that is still the aim for Fabio Quartararo, more because of the visibility here rather than any kind of issues with overheating front tyres. We're still expecting to see a little bit of spray, more than a little bit of spray. There will still be some standing water in patches of this racetrack. We've already heard from Piero Taramasso that there are still some patches as the virtual fan wall. Get ready to see this historic first Indonesian Grand Prix in 25 years. If we are going to see some spray, particularly in the early laps with the field all running together, it's going to be so important for these guys to try and get a clear track as soon as possible.
Yeah, Fabio Quartararo would not have known how perhaps significant that pole position was yesterday. He knew it was going to be good and crucial in dry conditions. Well, it might be absolutely vital now with, as Lewis said, the potential for spray hitting the riders that are in the chasing pack. An excellent weekend so far then for this young man, Fabio Di Gianantonio. Very, very limited experience of that Ducati in rain conditions. This is going to be a tough test of the mettle for these MotoGP riders. 5 minutes then to the race start here in Mandalika, and finally we can say there's going to be MotoGP race action in Indonesia. Our first visit to Southeast Asia since 2019.
One rider perhaps to identify that we haven't mentioned yet, who will certainly fancy his chances in these conditions. Starts all the way back in 18th on the grid. The brother of this man, Marc Marquez, if you're just joining us, will not start this Grand Prix due to a concussion sustained in the warm-up earlier on today, as some drizzle starts to fall, as Simon Crafar lets us know from pit lane. But Alex Marquez, his brother, of course, took a sensational podium, his first podium in MotoGP in very wet conditions at Le Mans, and very nearly won that Grand Prix as he was chasing down Danilo Petrucci. He'll certainly be a rider who will have a big result on his hands potentially today, certainly a bigger result than he thought when he qualified 18th yesterday.
Let's just hope then that that rain that's just starting to fall a little bit heavier again, as the team personnel are told to clear the grid, that it doesn't start falling as ferocious as what it did about an hour ago, which caused this lengthy delay here for the MotoGP return to Indonesia for the first time since 1997. Understandably, some really tense, anxious-looking faces down there on the grid. Somebody give Aleix Espargaro a glass of water. He looked like he got a real dry mouth. So here it is then, finally, we're about to get underway in MotoGP here in Indonesia. Two Pramac Ducatis on the front row of the grid. Johan Zarco in third place. Jorge Martin starts from second place. But it's the reigning world champion Fabio Quartararo who starts from pole position in our first Indonesian Grand Prix in 25 long years. Don't go anywhere, folks. 20 laps of pure drama and theatre coming your way in MotoGP. Up next.
Who will be the rainmaster of Mandalika here in MotoGP? Fabio Quartararo, the reigning world champion, starts from pole position ahead of the Pramac Ducatis of Jorge Martin and Johan Zarco. Brad Binder heads the KTM Challenge from the front of the second row ahead of the reigning world championship leader, Enea Bastianini. Keep an eye out for the rookies. They're led by Fabio Di Gianantonio. He starts in the middle of row 4 with Marco Bezzecchi just behind him. Pol Espargaro on the 5th row. He is the sole Repsol Honda challenger in this Grand Prix due to the injury sustained by Marc Marquez earlier this morning. In wet conditions with drizzle starting to fall once again, these are challenging conditions for the best riders in the world. Let's go racing in MotoGP.
So we've been waiting 72 minutes since we thought this Indonesian Grand Prix would be getting underway, and finally, as the rain just starts to fall, the warm-up lap then does finally get underway here in Mandalika. Fans have waited so long for this special moment, and we are going to get the Pertamina Grand Prix of Indonesia over that shortened race distance, 20 laps of course. Sadly, we are missing the absent 8-times world champion Marc Marquez, missing after a concussion sustained in a bruising high speed crash at turn 7 this morning in the warm-up. The light rain is still starting to fall. Let's hope it doesn't get any heavier as these riders tentatively attack this warm-up lap, crucial to build temperature in those Michelin rain tyres. Jorge Martin, a 24-year-old from Madrid. Back-to-back front row starts for Martin. Can he kick off the season with, well, his first podium after the disappointment of being wiped out by Pecco Bagnaia a couple of weeks ago in Qatar.
Here is Bagnaia, very important I think for these riders at such an early stage in this Grand Prix with the conditions as they are to stay off the curbs. The curbs were very treacherous earlier on in the Grand Prix. We are back in Indonesia. It's been a 25-year and a 2-hour wait for this MotoGP race, which we're now getting underway as Fabio Quartararo looks to take the spoils in Mandalika and get his World Championship challenge up and running as he defends the crown that he won last year. But just to come back to the point I mentioned a moment ago, in the Moto3 free practice 3 session yesterday, we saw a number of riders really losing control on the curbs, so they'll be looking to stay off those when they can. First winners at brand new circuits then. Andrea Iannone took the first win on MotoGP's return to Austria in 2016. 3 of the 5 new circuits on the calendar have been won first time by Marc Marquez. Of course, he won't be doing that today. And of course, when we returned to Portugal for the first ever Grand Prix in MotoGP at Portimao, it was Miguel Oliveira who took the spoils. But of course, none of those were in wet conditions. Who will be the first man to master Mandalika in MotoGP? We're about to find out.
It's time then for MotoGP to rock in Lombok. This is the special moment the Indonesian fans have been waiting a quarter of a century for. Fabio Quartararo about to start round 2 in 2022 from pole position on the front row with the Pramac Ducatis of Jorge Martin and Johan Zarco. 8,940 days since the last Indonesian Grand Prix at Sentul back in 1997. Later than we expected, but better late than never. The green flag waves at the back of the grid. We're about to get underway here. The Grand Prix of Indonesia. Delayed on the lights, the red light comes on, and we are underway here. MotoGP action underway in Indonesia. Big wheel for line there for Jorge Martin in second place. Storming start from Miguel Oliveira on the number 88 factory KTM. Quartararo, the poleman, gets the whole shot, but Oliveira up into third.
Look at Alex Rins, straight around the outside. He's ran wide into turn 1. He's got Jorge Martin on the side, and Rins got a brilliant start from the third row of the grid. He's now been eased wise by Jorge Martin, but Quartararo, just as he hoped for, he's got the whole shot, he's got a clear track.
Well, we saw a sensational start from Brad Binder in the dry starting race in Qatar. Brilliant launch there from the third row by Miguel Oliveira. He started 7th and immediately slots himself in to second place behind Fabio Quartararo. Perfect start for the world champion.
Jack Miller's come through into third place. He's a rider that we expected to keep an eye on in these conditions. His teammate, though, Pecco Bagnaia, had a terrible start. He's down 6 places, down into 12. Look at Joan Mir. He started down in 18th position. He's already cut half of the deficit. He's up into the top 10 and already got the inside of Brad Binder for 8th position. Yeah,
really aggressive, hasn't he been already, as he had to be. Joan Mir, Alex Marquez, I think in the background there, just putting his hand up. I think he might have made a bit of a hard move on somebody into turn number 10. They splashed their way through then into the third sector on this opening lap. Fabio Quartararo just where he wanted to be, coming under early pressure here. Attacking hard is the Portuguese man Miguel Oliveira. The advantage just under 0.3 of a second. You can see there the spray being kicked up by Quartararo's own one. If you're a mid-pack now, it's going to be difficult to pick your way through vision-wise in this busy last sector.
Well, we feared for Yamaha in these wet conditions, but so far they're going very well. Quartararo leads this Grand Prix. Franco Morbidelli's moved through from 14th on the grid up to 6th now. He's just gone past Jorge Martin. Andrea Dovizioso is also going well in 12th as Miguel Oliveira powers his way out of the final corner and eases past Fabio Quartararo.
Oh, look at the spray problems further back down the field. I don't know whether Quartararo made a mistake there coming up the final corner. He's been picked up as well now, briefly by Jack Miller into turn 1. He just lost all of his exit speed at turn 17 to Quartararo. That's how Oliveira got through by the time they got to the finish line. And all the momentum lost as well for Quartararo meant Miller got him on the brakes into the first corner.
Understandably, the rookies are taking it cautious. Marco Bezzecchi's dropped all the way back to 20th. He's just ahead of Remy Gardner and Darren Binder. Fabio Di Gianantonio is the leading rookie at the moment in 16th, but they're taking it understandably cautiously in these very early stages. But Oliveira away at the front. Jack Miller, though, on the move in second place. We've got 4 different manufacturers in the top 4 at the moment, with Alex Rins just out of picture. There he is in the back of the screens, up in 4th, just ahead of Johan Zarco.
Here comes Jack Miller then up the inside of Miguel Oliveira into turn 10, and he's got that move stuck. That's brilliant by the Ducati man. We thought he was going to be a big contender in these rain conditions. These are conditions that the Thriller Miller revels in. Oliveira just struggling for pace. He ran a little bit wide there, then he coming through turn number 11, thought he was going to get swallowed up by Fabio Quartararo. As good of a start it's been for Oliveira's KTM, it's been a bad start for Brad Binder. He's dropped outside the top 10 from that promising 4th place.
And the championship leader, Enea Bastianini, he's all the way down in 15th spot, so he's not enjoying these conditions at this very early stage. Maybe he'll build into it as this race goes on, but the championship leader is in big trouble at this very early stage. Here are your 3 leaders then, as Miguel Oliveira has a little bit of a look at Jack Miller. Quartararo's hanging on to them. It looked like he might slip backwards when he lost lead at the start of this lap, but now with some references ahead of him, Quartararo able to go with the leaders.
Amazing performance by these guys when you think that they've had no proper wet weather experience around this Mandalika circuit. Jack Miller just set the fastest lap of the race at 1:41.964. That's just about 10 seconds away from their best speed in qualifying conditions on soft, slick tyres yesterday. Amazing lap times, amazing confidence. This is why these guys are the very best in the world. To be setting these lap times with their experience in these conditions around this Mandalika track, incredible.
I think Quartararo made a little bit of a mistake through turn 1. We just saw him wide in the back of the shot. He's now coming under a bit of pressure from Alex Rins. There is Quartararo's teammate, Franco Morbidelli, who's made big progress in these early stages. A little bit surprised that the other Ducatis aren't quite as competitive as we thought in these early stages. Jorge Martin down in 8th position for Pecco Bagnaia is starting to make progress back through the pack now after his poor start. He's back up into 9th.
And Miller mullered him on that second lap. It was almost a second faster than anybody else as Alex Rins comes from a long way back. That's going to be tight. Oh, so easy there to lock the front and wash out the front end of that Suzuki. Might have also skittled out the world champion Fabio Quartararo as well. Now then, Rins and Zarco have got to find a way through on Quartararo pretty quickly here, because they can see the top 2 men, Miller and Oliveira, much faster and starting to check out at the front.
Yeah, there's a real danger, of course. A shortened race, 20-lap race, so not a lot of time for these riders to get these moves done and get up the road. Rins and Zarco really are climbing all over the back of Fabio Quartararo, who's lost a lot of ground on this lap. He's 1.5 seconds back now on the leaders, but he's managed to cover his line pretty well into turn 16. Rins still holds the line, still stays in 4th position, with Zarco and Mir just up behind them. And now we come back to Jorge Martin. He's in 8th position at the moment, just at the back of this leading group.
I just showed you there how one line it is, particularly in these rain conditions for Alex Rins and Zarco. Couldn't get through. Quartararo's getting swallowed up though. Rins and Zarco pick him off out of that final corner, on the brakes into the first corner. Quartararo's going the wrong way here. He made a great start, but it's all unravelling pretty quickly here for the world champion. Alex Rins now has got his hands full. 2 flying Frenchmen all over his rear tyre. Now this battle, as it rages on, is just giving Miller and Oliveira the chance to break away. You can see the top 2 men there. They're already going through turn 5.
Here's what happens to Fabio Quartararo. I said earlier on in the warm lap, don't touch the curbs. And Fabio Quartararo got on the curb and it just lost him all his momentum.
I think that's what happened as well, Lewis, earlier in the race. He was out wide on those curbs, super slick, super greasy, no grip whatsoever, and that allowed Oliveira to get through initially. Jack Miller then with the hammer down at 1:41.161. Full respect here to Miguel Oliveira to keep tabs with this early pace by the Australian. Oliveira on that last lap was also a 1:41.1. Johan Zarco also pretty rapid, but half a second away from the top 2 men. Let's see what Rins now and Zarco can do now they've got through on the world champ Quartararo.
This is the view back then from the race leader, Jack Miller, who we've so often seen excel in these kind of conditions. Miguel Oliveira, we've perhaps seen less of that over the years, but he's certainly proving that he's the match for Jack Miller at the moment. Is he going to have a little blunt neck now? No, he stays where he is for the moment. While these 2 are pulling away from the gap behind them, the likes of Alex Rins and Johan Zarco, I think Miguel Oliveira will be quite comfortable to sit there in 2nd place. As long as he can still see the road ahead of him, he'll be quite happy just to sit there if he feels he's got the pace later on in this Grand Prix.
So it's the Aussie Jack Miller, always super strong in these tricky rain conditions, that still has the advantage. He fires in another 1:41.2, just a 10th quicker than Oliveira in 2nd place. Alex Rins has dropped his pace down to the mid 1:41s as well. It's a PB lap time from the Spaniard. There is Jorge Martin back in 8th. Now then, what has happened to the number 89? Is he on the curbs as well? Oh! On the white line. Slippery as you like. Look at this. He's on the curb, on the white line, and how on earth has he stayed on board that? That kicked sideways big time. Jorge Martin, that was heart in the mouth for the Spanish rider. He stays sunny side up, thankfully, and still holding 8th place.
The World Championship leader is sinking without trace. Enea Bastianini is down in 20th position at the moment. He's lapping in the 144s. He's 3 seconds a lap slower than this duo out the front.
There's only Taka Nakagami actually on track, Lewis, that's slower than Bastianini. We know Bastianini hasn't got a lot of wet weather experience. Taka Nakagami's having an absolute horror show out there. Likewise, Maverick Vinales, who's marooned down in 22nd place. Here comes Oliveira. That's the battle for the race lead, and it's now in the advantage of the Portuguese man. Miguel Oliveira snaps up the inside of Jack Miller coming into turn 12.
Yeah, he looked like he'd been scheduled to do that for a couple of laps now. Oliveira looks visibly faster than Jack Miller. He looked like he had a bit more pace behind him. Now Jack Miller's got a reference up ahead of him. Will Miller be able to go with the KTM out front? They're still continuing to break away from the field behind them. Only really Alex Rins and Johan Zarco have any kind of pace to match these guys. Quartararo continues to lap a second a lap slower.
Yeah, the top 4 men on that last lap were about to start lap 6. They were the only 4 in the 141s. It's going to feel like a long 15 laps as Oliveira starts to try and make a crucial break here. Fastest lap of the Grand Prix, a 1:40.804. Already asking some major questions here of Miller in second place. Alex Rins in third. We've seen him in these podium places before. Rain or shine. Oh, that's Pecco Bagnaia.
Way out wide, yeah.
Go free and going off the circuit right now. He's almost in downtown Lombok, is Pecco Bagnaia. It hasn't worked out for him at all. He was only just able to break into the 141s. Whoa! How on earth did he save that? That was even better than the Martin save.
Yeah, the fact that he went off into the runoff, that was a save, really. The fact that he didn't go all the way out to the car park there.
Unbelievable. I've no idea. That front end was digging a trench into the surface. That was incredible. What a save by Pecco Bagnaia.
Yeah, he's rejoined in 12th place. He's just behind Brad Binder, who's starting to make some gentle progress on the KTM. He and Luca Marini are both chasing down Paul Espargaro, who did make some good progress. He's just dropped behind both Marini and Binder. He made good progress from his low group position, started 15th and got himself up to the top 8. Unfortunately now for the Repsol Honda man, the sole Repsol Honda man in the race, he's starting to slip back down the field.
Just shows how treacherous these conditions are. One small mistake. Martin out on the curbs, lighting up his rear tyre, nearly flung to the moon coming out the final corner. Then Pecco Bagnaia, he wasn't obviously doing anything too crazy, riding within himself, riding to his limit, and the front tyre just locking up underneath him. I'm still not sure, I'm sure he's got no idea as well, how he stayed on top of that factory Ducati. He's still in the Grand Prix. There's Paulo Oliveira, Miguel Oliveira's father, of course, a constant sidekick for the Portuguese man, who again finds another fastest lap of the Grand Prix, a 1:40.148. At this stage, Jack Miller's got nothing for him. Miller's into the 140s as well, but he's 6/10 of a second slower on that last lap.
Fabio Quartararo on screen. He looks like he's stabilised a little bit with his pace. He's running pretty comfortably now in 5th position. He's matching the lap times of Joan Mir and Jorge Martin behind him. Here is Luca Marini then, who's in 9th position at the moment. Of course, he had to come from the 5th row of the grid, and he's making pretty good progress in 9th position. Brad Binder just behind him, who, given the fact that a lot of the key contenders back in Qatar are struggling, Brad Binder's actually the provisional championship leader if they put the flag out now. He'd be a point ahead of Enea Bastianini, Miguel Oliveira and Alex Rins, but still an awful long way to go in this race as Paul Espargaro looks to chase down the South African.
Yeah, Enea Bastianini's found some confidence. He's got himself into the 142s, but in 6 laps, the World Championship leader lost 19 seconds. That's how difficult it was for Bastianini to trust himself pushing on that Ducati GP21. There is Pecco Bagnaia, who's probably just still relieved to be part of this Indonesian Grand Prix. Simon, down to you.
Yeah, guys, I think that Martin's up on the curbs was because of visibility spray. You know, it's horrible. You end up on there by the time you know it's too late. But the good news is the rain stopped, and over the next laps you'll see the spray visibility get better.
Yeah, thanks for that, Simon. There's a problem here for Andrea Dovizioso, normally one of the strongest wet weather riders in this MotoGP field, and this sort of shake of the head, the frustrated, forlorn look on Dovi's face. That doesn't look like he's made a mistake and crashed. It looks like that Yamaha has gone kaput on him. We've seen a couple of technical problems this weekend for Fabio Quartararo, haven't we? When that machine has been working underneath Quartararo, he was brilliant in the drive, fastest on Friday. Of course, qualified on pole position. These rain conditions, though, have really hit. Oh, that's Martin. Jorge Martin, then unfortunately, it's back-to-back DNFs to kick off 2022 for the Spanish rider. That's in the braking zone for turn 1 as well. We saw Pecco Bagnaia have the big scare there 2 or 3 laps ago. That is a very second-hand GP 2022. bolt upright.
Right on that wet patch.
Just on that wet patch. Franco Morbidelli had a front row seat for that. He was just braking, squeezing that front lever, and on that little river that was running across the circuit, nothing he could do. He was almost straight line braking there, up and down. Jorge Martin down. Thankfully, he's okay. Massive repair job though on that Pramac Ducati. So we've lost Martin from 7th.
Well, Miguel Oliveira continues to chip away. He's still lapping in the low 1 minute 40s. Jack Miller's starting to match him on pace, so he's just keeping the Portuguese rider in check. They're all setting personal best laps in that leading group. In fact, the fastest man of the leading group on that last lap was the world champion, Fabio Quartararo, 140.184, putting some of those fears about his wet weather riding to bed. He's keeping Johan Zarco well and truly in sight.
Got to be careful there, Zarco. He was in hot there and off the line into turn 13 as he tries to keep on par with Alex Rins ahead of him. That might well have cost him a couple of tenths. Francesco Guidotti, what an amazing start to his tenure as the Red Bull Catering Factory Racing team manager. He saw Brad Binder start the season with a brilliant second place in Qatar. At the moment, Miguel Oliveira reeling off yet another fastest lap. This is unbelievable pace. We heard about the fantastic grip levels here in the rain conditions in Mandalika. A 1:39.801 now from Oliveira. That is only 8.8 seconds slower than slick tyre pace. Astonishing. What high grip levels we've got here in the rain.
Absolutely. Once again, the next fastest rider on track was Fabio Quartararo. He's certainly growing in confidence in these wet conditions. He's 0.6 of a second behind Johan Zarco. This is the battle then for 12th place. This is Pol Espargaro on the leading Honda in this race. He's got Alex Marquez just behind him. We're going to see what's happened to Pol. He's touched the white line and he's gone way off track.
Wow, that was a monumental scare for Pol Espargaro. Wow, we've seen some big heart in the mouth moments riding that curve on the outside. Simon said that's not where you want to be. Those guys are not going there intentionally. It's just where they're finding themselves with the spray and the visibility. That was huge. Wow, Pol Espargaro and Pecco Bagnaia in particular need to go and buy a lottery ticket tonight, because that was so close to disaster for the pair of them. They're still circulating in this Mandalika Grand Prix. Nobody's doing a better job right now than Oliveira. He's now on this lap alone in 3 sectors, taking 7 tenths out of Jack Miller, stretching away here. 2.2 seconds the gap as Oliveira comes to the final sector.
Well, the With You RNF team may have lost Andrea Dovizioso, but a shout out to his teammate Darren Binder, who's doing a superb job. He's up into 13th position now, well and truly in the points. The South African, he's not of course got much wet weather experience at all, but on the last lap around he was faster than everyone ahead of him, all the way up to Joan Mir in 6th position. So keep an eye out for Darren Binder chasing his way through the field. Bastianini's also starting to regroup. He's now back up into the points.
Well, after all the dramas for Marc Marquez missing this Grand Prix after his 4th crash this morning in the War, but the last thing the Repsol Honda needed was another man on the deck after a heavy crash, and that's so close to what happened to Pol Espargaro. Now then, Oliveira now down to a fastest lap of a 1:39.557. Again, he was about 7 tenths quicker than Jack Miller directly behind him. Miller just slowly being reeled in here as well by Alex Rins. Rins was half a second faster than the Aussie on that last lap. The fans gathered all around the world, the virtual fan wall. Hope you're enjoying this one, folks. We waited 25 years for an Indonesian Grand Prix. It's delivered so far, hasn't it? Great drama, great entertainment, and we've still got 11 laps to go. We're not even at half-race distance. The shortened 20-lap Mandalika battle still being dominated at the moment by this man, Miguel Oliveira.
Yeah, Jack Miller starting to come under a little bit of pressure now. Alex Rins has also got Johan Zarco pretty close behind him. Zarco running wide, as you say, in turn 11, so that might have let Alex Rins off the hook a little bit. He still sits in 3rd position. Here is your World Championship leader, then Enea Bastianini, who was near enough last earlier on in the race, but he's now starting to lap in the low 141s as he gently makes his way through the field. He's got 5.7 seconds though up to Alex Marquez up ahead of him, so he may be relying on some misfortune up ahead to claim any extra points.
He was half a second quicker than Marquez on that previous lap, so he's got time to recover that gap. Zarco's got to be patient here. There's a couple of times as he's got close, sort of within striking distance of Alex Rins, he's just made a mistake, and maybe it's the visibility problem because he's got in there a little bit hot. To his credit though, despite that mistake up at turn 11 on that last lap, he did find a 1:39.200. That means the Frenchman is now the fastest man on this Mandalika circuit. He was 4 tenths quicker than your race leader Oliveira.
Yeah, he's going well, isn't he? Looking further down then, we've got a big battle for 8th position, led by Luca Marini. He's got Brett Binder just behind him. Pecco Bagnaia, though, is chasing his way through the field. Here's Jorge Martin then, who's, of course, out of the Grand Prix. We're glad to see that he's uninjured. And the Pramac Ducati hopes solely lying on the shoulders of Johann Zarco at the moment.
Yeah, we've had tropical thunderstorms which have dominated the afternoon here in Mandalika, and a face of thunder, unfortunately, for Jorge Martin. He had a big scare coming out the final corner at the start of this Grand Prix, and then the big moment on the brakes going into turn 1, that wasn't savable. Down the road he went. Thankfully, he's okay, because that was a fast old crash as Alex Rins tries to resist the two Frenchmen honing in on behind him, and it looks like the move's coming. Yeah, Zarco's lined that up brilliantly. Into turn 12, it was all about the power he could get through the ground. Out of turn number 11, he made that look so simple. Zarco up into 3rd.
Yeah, Zarco's had a long time between podiums, hasn't he? Not since the first half of last season that we've seen Johann Zarco on the podium. Of course, he'll be looking to aim that here. He clearly felt he had more pace. He's got on with it and got on with it pretty quickly. He was the fastest rider last time around. Even with the overtake, he's still closing in on Jack Miller up ahead of him. 1.3 seconds the gap to Jack Miller up ahead. Zarco was 1.8 behind at the start of this lap, so he's clearly got pace to go after the Australian up in front. Has he got anything from Miguel Oliveira out front, who's 3.5 seconds clear now?
Yeah, Oliveira again took another 0.8 of a second out of Miller on that previous lap. Miller's just in the 140s. Quartararo, Zarco and Rins behind him. They've got themselves tucked into those 139s. Likewise, Joan Mir, who's probably unlikely to figure in that battle for the top 5. He's 2.7 seconds behind Quartararo. The problem for Jack Miller here, he's not got the pace to go with Miguel Oliveira, and he's being reeled in pretty quickly here, pretty rapidly by Zarco and Rins behind him.
Darren Binder up into 12th position. He continues to pick his way through the field. He's just gone past Paul Espargaro. He's now got Aleix Espargaro just ahead of him. It won't be long before this young South African is battling with the pre-season title favourite Francesco Bagnaia for a top 10 position. Darren Binder having a sensational Grand Prix. Although no one at the moment can keep tabs with Miguel Oliveira, who continues to extend his lead, but Zarco is really chewing into the gap between himself and Jack Miller. It started the lap at 1.2 seconds. He's almost halved it now.
Only 6 men on that previous lap in the 139s, one of them being Enea Bastianini, but he's given himself so much work to do. Lacking confidence, lacking feel at the start of the Grand Prix was the World Championship leader. He's still 26.3 seconds back, but he has got himself into the points going places in 15th, 4.3 seconds though back of Alex Marquez, but he has demonstrated over the last 2 laps or so he's actually got top 3 pace, but it's just far too late.
This is a matter of time, I think, for Johann Zarco. Look at the gap already. It's under half a second now to the back of Jack Miller. Zarco really gaining in confidence in this Grand Prix as Oliveira comes out of the final corner. Of course, no visibility problems for him, so he's able to stay well and truly off the curbs and keep himself nicely in line. But Johann Zarco, once again, the fastest lap of the race. He was a second near enough faster than Jack Miller on that last lap, and 3/10 quicker than the leader, Miguel Oliveira.
Something's happened to Alex Rins on that lap. Something maybe happened to Rins coming out the final corner, because he's just all of a sudden lost contact with Miller and Zarco ahead of him. What's going on here with Alex Rins? Has he got some kind of a problem? Because Quartararo just eases on through as well. Alex Rins, in the blink of an eye, was right on the rear tyre of Johann Zarco, and now he's dropped right out of that podium battle and surrendered another place to Fabio Quartararo. Did he have a moment coming out of that final corner at turn 17, which we've seen big moments for Martin and Paul Espargaro earlier in the Grand Prix?
Well, he did 1:39.9 that last lap, Alex Rins. That was a second slower than Johann Zarco.
Here comes
Zarco. He's showing a wheel of the inside, but Miller is able to brake late enough and force Zarco out wide. Zarco kind of being wrong-footed there by the Australian up ahead of him. And at the moment, Miller holds strong in second place.
There's no need here for Zarco to take these kind of big risks in the braking zones. He's by far the faster man of these 2 Ducatis. Jack Miller has dropped back into the clutches of Zarco, given the brilliant speed of the Frenchman, that 1:38.935. The grip levels, we keep talking about this, amazing lap times in these rain conditions. Fabio Quartararo's pole time, not a dry race lap, was a 1:31.067. Yet Zarco, on full rain tyres in really tricky conditions, is finding a high 1:38. Remarkable.
Incredible stuff from him. Johann Zarco then closing in on the back of Jack Miller as they come across the line. Miguel Oliveira continuing to lap in the mid-139s. He's setting a decent rhythm out front. Here he is, clear visor, as we see the concentration from the Portuguese. Jack Miller, actually, to his credit, responded to the challenge of Zarco last lap. Miller setting his personal best lap of the race in the mid-1:39s. And Quartararo 1.8 seconds behind his fellow Frenchman in 4th. Alex Rins did a 1:40.7. Of course, we saw a slow start to that lap, and he ended up losing 4th place to Fabio Quartararo.
Yeah, Rins made a mistake going into turn 16 as well, which has lost him further ground here to Fabio Quartararo. So unfortunately, having climbed off his sick bed, he was laid low by a nasty bug. Coming in here as we've got a Binder battle ensuing. Bragging rights back at their European base in Andorra up at stake here. Brad Binder in 9th place. His brother Darren has just passed Pecco Bagnaia and Aleix Espargaro to get himself up into 10th spot.
This is an incredible ride from Darren Binder. Only the top, well, 6 of the top 7 are faster than him. He's faster than everyone else on track at the moment. Alex Rins was slower than him. Here is the battle for 2nd place. Then you can see just how much more speed Johann Zarco is able to carry through turn 11, but no way through into 12. Will he have a look into 13? No, he's not. He doesn't have to, as you say, be too impatient here, Johann Zarco. He's clearly got the superior pace to Jack Miller if he can get some clear track. But where is he able to make that crucial move?
He's got the superior pace, and he knows as well he's got nothing for Miguel Oliveira. He's just too far up into the distance. So at the moment, it looks like the best Zarco can gamble for is a 2nd place. Immaterial of whether Miguel Oliveira wins this Grand Prix, right now, Darren Binder is going to be the rider of the day. Astonishing performance given his experience. Well, this is the first time, really. It is. He's had a full wet weather experience on that With You RNF Yamaha. He's keeping his brother Brad honest right now, as Oliveira's lead is 3.8 seconds. He exchanges 1:39.7 with Jack Miller, again slightly faster with Zarco, and Fabio Quartararo's got some real good speed now. A 1:39 flat from Quartararo. He's trying to drag himself back into contention for this podium as well.
We've not seen it on screen, but Darren Binder has passed his brother Brad now. Darren Binder's up into 9th place. He's now just on the tail of Luca Marini, who will be his next target, and then I think his progress might be slightly more difficult, but Darren Binder putting in an exceptional performance on the With You RNF Yamaha. Jack Miller a little bit wide there. That might put him under pressure now from Johann Zarco. This is where Zarco will be able to get the slingshot as we head down into turn 10. Is he going to go to the inside? He is.
Yeah, he's worked that move. He's looked at that move a couple of times. He gets him way too hot. They've got to be careful there. Doesn't want to pick up the throttle and launch himself to the moon. So it was a brief sojourn into 2nd place for the Frenchman at turn 10. He was down there, of course, at the end of FP4 in dramatic fashion on the dropped oil by Alex Rins, his stricken Suzuki. And now this has brought Fabio Quartararo right back into the heat of the battle here for 2nd place. Once he got heat in those tyres as well, Quartararo found his rhythm, found his confidence. Having started in the lead, he's getting himself right back into this podium battle.
Quartararo's going to be the fastest rider on track at the moment. He might be having a look at Johann Zarco, actually. Here he goes, look, up the inside into turn 16. Has he left his brake a little bit too late? No, that's beautifully done. Quartararo, who at one point looked as if he was fading this race, is now back into the podium positions.
Yeah, he knew there, as long as he had Zarco on his outside in his peripheral vision, there was no way that Zarco was going to be able to cut it back on the Ducati. Is there going to be a bit of Ducati power coming into effect here? And Zarco can just blitz on by us. Quartararo has a big moment there on a bit of standing water, a puddle that caught out Jorge Martin, and he does indeed lose that spot. Oh! And Zarco trying to get on the gas as quickly as he dared through that first corner. He had a big step out of the rear tyre as well, so it's now Quartararo back into 3rd place. 75% of the race distance has been completed.
Yeah, we almost saw a French connection there, didn't we, between Zarco and Quartararo through turn 1, but Quartararo able to take that 3rd place. He's the fastest rider on track again. He's doing low 1:39s. He was 4/10 quicker even than the leader, Miguel Oliveira, although with 5 laps to go, Oliveira should be able to manage that 4.6 second gap. Is Zarco going to have another go? He's not been able to make these overtakes cleanly so far. He has a little look at the inside of Quartararo, but has to stay in 4th position for now.
Yeah, cracking battle this, raging for 2nd place here in Indonesia. It's still Advantage Miller. He's doing a great job. A bit of French resistance going on here. He can't resist anymore, though, can he? Quartararo up the inside into turn 12. This has been a brilliant recovery by Fabio Quartararo. His last 5 or 6 laps have been sensational. The world champion's ride from the world champion. This is what we wanted to see from Fabio Quartararo. This was the Quartararo missing in the dry in Doha a couple of weeks ago, and of course, crucially, looking strong in the rain conditions where perhaps in the past he has suffered.
Darren Binder up to 8th position now. He's picked off Luca Marini. I think that's where his progress may end. He's got 10 seconds up to Franco Morbidelli in 7th position. Brad Binder, he's dropped back to 11th now, which could keep Enea Bastianini in the lead of the World Championship. He's in 14th. He's just gone past Pecco Bagnaia, who's having a nightmare in these closing stages.
Quartararo's got some serious pace at the moment. He's just on another 1:39 flat. That was 9/10 of a second clear of Jack Miller. PB laps coming in from Rins and Mir, the two Suzuki men finding a bit of late speed as well. Can Alex Rins somehow force his way back into this podium battle? Of course, he will want to collect the points. There was a lot of missed opportunities for Rins over the last couple of years. This is a really big, intense battle for 8th spot, and it is being led by the superb rookie Darren Binder. Alex Marquez picks off
Bastianini was trying to get on the inside of Alex Marquez into turn 1 and overcooked it into turn 1, but the top two in the championship are in the thick of this battle. There is Brad Binder. Here comes Johan Zarco, then once again having a look, but he just cannot outbrake Jack Miller into turn 10. Gets up on Miller, outbreaks himself, and that's just the opportunity Zarco needs. He'll have the inside now into turn 11, and that should be enough for him to move into 3rd place finally.
I just have a heart in my mouth there, because we didn't see Fabio Quartararo. I was thinking, oh no, what's happened to the world champion? But he's put clear daylight now between himself and this battle for 3rd place. Zarco from Miller. Quartararo in this lap alone. Whoa, there was a moment there through 13 for Jack Miller, right foot off the peg. He's obviously encountering a few late grip issues here. Is there still a little bit of life left in this race? Because Fabio Quartararo has found 0.6 of a second in the first 3 sectors on this current lap alone. Let's check the gap between this man, your race leader, Miguel Oliveira, as he's about to start lap 17. 3 to go here in Mandalika. Oliveira's advantage over Quartararo is 3.4 seconds
faster for Quartararo that time around.
Fabio Quartararo is smelling an unlikely victory here, putting real pressure on Oliveira. A 1:38.749 then from Quartararo. The gap down to 3.4 seconds.
Oliveira must have been setting a pretty comfortable rhythm out for it. He'll be getting the hurry up now from his team on the pit wall when he comes next time around. We'll now see if Oliveira does have some more pace in hand, or whether he's at his limit, just setting the pace he is. Because KTM will now be alerting Oliveira to the news that he's losing a second a lap to Fabio Quartararo in 2nd place. Can he now respond with 3 laps to go and a second a lap? Quartararo could be there on the final lap of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, Miller just struggling to hang on to the coattails of Zarco. Oliveira's held station through the first sector. He's kept that gap to 3.4 seconds. Of course, he wasn't running a slow pace. He was managing it pretty well as Quartararo there is faced through that clear visor. A picture of concentration. You can see Miguel Oliveira coming back to him. In fact, Quartararo's really strong in sector 2. He's found 0.4 of a second on Oliveira in that second split. The gap down to 3 seconds.
Sector 3 is going to click up now. Has he made up more ground? No, Oliveira has been able to gain back a 10th. It's really these margins we're talking about. 1/10 of a second here and there could make the difference here for Oliveira, as he's now suddenly have to go into protection mode and try and protect that lead over Fabio Quartararo. 2 laps to go once Oliveira comes out of this next left-hander. Has he been able to respond? It looks as if he's just been able to do enough on this lap as he comes out of this final corner. He's having to up his pace, no question about it. He's been doing high 39s for the last few laps. This time around, though, a personal best lap of the race for Oliveira, a 1:39.2. He has responded. Quartararo's continuing to lap in the 38 to 38.9, but only 0.3 faster that time around. The Portuguese has responded.
Yeah, that's just the response that KTM would have been looking for from Miguel Oliveira. He's got the hammer back down again now. A PB lap time, a 1:39.205. That could be decisive. That could be a pivotal moment in this Mandalika battle, because he's 3.2 seconds now clear of Fabio Quartararo with, what, 1 lap and 10 corners remaining. Surely now Quartararo's going to have to settle for 2nd place. Look at this battle. Here comes Enea Bastianini up the inside of Darren Binder. He's got that move done. You know that Binder, though, is not going to let him have it for nothing, and he fights straight back. He leans on the World Championship leader. Great stuff, and Bastianini's got sucked into it there, hasn't he? Engaging with Darren Binder, and he made the mistake going into turn 2.
Look at the star-studded company in this group, and they're being led by the rookie up from Moto3 last season. Darren Binder is having an absolutely storming ride. Bastianini, the World Championship leader, looking to try and rescue whatever points he can, and he's rescued an extra point there. That's not a place for you to see people overtake, but Bastianini carving his way through.
He doesn't want any late drama here, does he, Bastianini? Trying to get up to the front of this group and maybe check out. Here comes Binder on the inside at turn 10. No fear, no holds barred from Binder. We saw some fireworks from him in his Moto3 career, but Bastianini can't find a way through. Aleix Espargaro right in contention, but there's 3 abreast into turn 12. Bastianini in the sandwich, and he's the one that comes out on the wrong side of it. Binder got through, likewise Aleix Espargaro. Bastianini surrendering crucial championship points here. Now Brad Binder goes through at turn 13. We're on the last lap. Oliveira is your race leader. His advantage over the line was cut down to 2.8 seconds to Fabio Quartararo. everything crossed down the Red Bull KTM garage. They thought Qatar was good. Perfect way to start the season with Binder second place, but it's about to get better because Oliveira on course here for a famous first win in Indonesia.
Something's happened to Darren Binder. He's just been overtaken. He's dropped back to 10th now. His brother Brad is now up into 8th place. KTM are on for the jackpot, aren't they? Brad Binder is going to be very, very close to the World Championship lead, and Miguel Oliveira on course for his 4th career victory in MotoGP. The podium positions look relatively set. Johan Zarco took a couple of tenths out of Fabio Quartararo on that last lap, but that was more than enough for him to pull clear of Jack Miller. Miller looks safe in 4th with the Suzukis in 5th and 6th, but no one so far has been able to keep the pace of the magnificent Miguel Oliveira, who's just a few corners away now from a crucial and very well-deserved victory.
Into turn 12 then, just got to keep his focus, keep his concentration. It's been a perfect Grand Prix so far for Miguel Oliveira. He has not put a foot wrong. Keeps that KTM, wheels in line. Zarco going in hot again into turn 13. But here we go then, Miguel Oliveira, just a couple of corners left for him in this first Indonesian Grand Prix in 25 years. It has been well worth the wait. Fabio Quartararo is going to take second place, but through the final corner then comes Oliveira. Miguel is the man in Mandalika, a famous win here for KTM in our first Indonesian Grand Prix in a quarter of a century. A brilliant podium, really good second place there for Fabio Quartararo. Zarco does take 3rd, 4th place goes to Miller. Rins and Mir, the two Suzukis, were 5th and 6th respectively. Who's going to win this heated battle for 7th?
Brad Binder, I think he's just ahead of Aleix Espargaro. Darren's got an air Bastianini behind him as Paul Espargaro is looking to try and steal some late points from the World Championship leader. But it looks like Brad Binder who's going to take those 8 World Championship points for 8th place. Paul Espargaro coming through your framing. He's down in 12th position, but it is Brad Binder from Aleix Espargaro. Darren Binder, a terrific top 10 for him on the Whittier RNF Yamaha. Bastianini recovers from that poor start to 11th, ahead of Paul Espargaro and Alex Marquez. Marini in 14th, while Pecco Bagnaia takes the final point. Just 1 point from the first 2 races for Bagnaia.
They know that was a massive race there from Fabio Quartararo in terms of the championship. There's joy and jubilation down at KTM. What a race by Miguel Oliveira. His crew chief there, Paul Travanthen, he's buzzing. Absolutely brilliant performance. A pocket of Portuguese fans here in Indonesia as well. They're everywhere, aren't they? And the Portuguese fans. That was a brilliant ride by Miguel Oliveira. Well, kept his composure, kept his calm after the, 75-minute delay. We should have been underway at 3 p.m. local time. We wondered if it would be worth the wait after 25 long years. It certainly was. Oliveira is the race winner here in Indonesia, and a valuable 20 points taken for the poleman Fabio Quartararo. Let's hear the thoughts of his team manager, Maio Meregali.
Maio, that was a ride this weekend of a champion, you know, Fabio being fastest in the dry, the favourite, then all of this get thrown on him and he pulled that out.
He did a superb ride. I could not imagine at the beginning because we know that on the wet we are not that competitive, but probably here the grip that new tarmac provide in general was good, and we could really do well. And I have to say unexpected, but I'm so happy.
Big congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can just sense in the voice, the tone there of Maio Meregali. They're so delighted. Somehow, after all that drama, an 11th place, Enea Bastianini losing out on that last lap is still going to be the World Championship leader as we switch from Southeast Asia to South America in a couple of weeks' time.
The Binder brothers, look.
Whoa! Brotherly love? What about brotherly love?
Darren looks over and he's suddenly well aware who that is.
Well, there you go. There's no love lost between the Binders when it comes out on circuit, is there? That cost Darren a brilliant 8th place because of that aggressive move by Brad. I'm not sure if that was anybody else he would have gone for that.
Sure,
that allowed Aleix Espargaro through to take 9th spot. So super aggressive late move then by Brad Binder. A family affair, a bit of friendly fire, I think it's fair to say. But this man was utterly brilliant. Well, what a ride in really tricky conditions. We saw so many scares. Paul Espargaro, Pecco Bagnaia had big moments. And as Lewis said, it has been a pretty atrocious start to 2022 for our pre-season favourite in many respects. Pecco Bagnaia down and out, crashing out the first Grand Prix in Qatar, and the miserly return of 1 point here in Mandalika. And what will really hurt
I think Fabio Quartararo had won the race. Looking at him here, look at these scenes of Fabio Quartararo. I don't think I've ever seen him as excited as that, having won a Grand Prix. That is a serious result for a rider who hasn't shown his best work in wet conditions before, but we certainly saw the best of Fabio Quartararo today.
Yeah, big result. It's early doors in the championship chase, but he knows that was a big result, unexpected. As Maya Merigali said, he started from pole position and we thought he was fading out of contention early on, but he's on the podium in second place. So I'm just going to finish off there. Bagnaia was 35 seconds away from Miguel Oliveira, not even at the races, not even close. Of course, his confidence would have been absolutely hammered by that big front end scare going to the first corner, but even so, not at the races today, was he, Pecco Bagnaia? This man, though, certainly was. He's took full advantage of those tricky conditions, and Miguel Oliveira finds himself back in P1 in Parc Ferme. Great job by the Red Bull KTM factory team. In fact, they are now, of course, going to lead the team championship, and KTM, for the first time in their history, will lead the all-important Constructor Prize. Pretty good start to 2022 for the Mattighofen brand. And what about the start to his KTM career for Francesco Guidotti? He thought the second place in Qatar was superb. How does he feel after his first win as KTM boss? Down to you, Simon.
Francesco, what a superb ride from Miguel, and how does it feel to already win a race with KTM?
Yeah, win a race is always important. But, I mean, it's not a personal victory. It's a team victory. It's a Miguel victory because he was so strong since Friday morning, full committed in any condition, in any circumstances. He was on top always. So yeah, it's a almost perfect weekend. Yeah, I have no words. I mean, it's a second race, 2 podiums, or second with Brad and victory here with Miguel. Seems that yeah, hopefully we are in a good way.
Congratulations.
Grazie.
Guidotti's brought the golden touch to KTM, hasn't he? Alex Rins, if you'd have said to him on Thursday night when he had about 4 hours sleep, bedridden with a sick bug, body aches, all kinds of problems for Alex Rins, and the big blow up, of course, in FP4. If you'd have said 5th place, he would have taken that. The virtual fan wall, well, we really do hope you enjoyed that Indonesian Grand Prix, the first since 1997. Thanks for your patience there. Of course, we were at the mercy of the elements, but finally we did get a cracking Grand Prix. Jack Miller then just misses out on the podium in 4th place. Let's go down to Pramac Ducati's Fonzie Nieto. I'm sure is pretty happy. Johan Zarco, 3rd place for the Frenchman.
Fonzie, tell us, as an ex-rider, what do you think of your rider's work today?
Jorge has very bad luck. Unfortunately, he crashed on the line of the water, and he's rookie on the range, you know, and he needs more races to understand the race condition. And Johan, for sure, he can win. The pace of him, it was amazing at the beginning of the race, but he lost so much time with Rins in the beginning and also with Jack. And then in the end it was difficult, but his reading is a pace to win.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job for Pramac Ducati in many respects. Mixed fortunes, Jorge Martin, thankfully unhurt after the big crash in the first corner. Joan Mir, after a very difficult wend in the dry conditions in particular, salvages a 6th place. That's not a bad rescue job by the 2 Suzukis, actually. It looks like they were both really under the cosh in that Grand Prix just to stay on board that GSX-R.
Well, if you think 2 weeks ago, 6th and 7th for the Suzuki seemed like a really disappointing evening for them, given what we expected from them prior to the race. But I'm sure they'll feel that 5th and 6th is a major save for them, given where they started on the grid. Alex Rins starting from the 3rd row, Mir coming through to 6th, but the podium sees 2 Frenchmen in 2nd and 3rd. 3rd position for Johan Zarco, back on the podium, and he's now talking to Simon.
Johan, as Fonzie Nieto just pointed out to me, you had the pace to win if you could get past the other guys. Are you happy with 3rd?
I must be happy. It's a podium in MotoGP, it's always nice. But clearly, I need a little bit of time to understand well the grip, and that's the high quality of Jack and Miguel. They could push immediately quite hard. And once I understood it, I could do good laps. But it was too hard to overtake because I was not good enough in exit of the corner, and all the meters I was losing in the exit. I was catching up on the brake, but I could not overtake because I was always losing the contact. And it has been a bit long with Rins, and then same story with Jack, so I've lost too much time, at least for the 2nd place. because then when the track was clear, I could be very fast and I could push even more on the front. But too late, too late. So third place, I take it.
Great job, congratulations.
Yeah, top ride that by Joan Zarco. Yeah, it might have been too late for second or the victory, but he'll take a podium. It's his first in 13 since the Catalonia battle in Barcelona last year. It was pretty tight at times as well with his compatriot Fabio Quartararo, but they both did a great job. They've just found their speed and rhythm that little bit too late, didn't they, to go with Miguel Oliveira. We'll shortly hear from a very punched reigning world champion. A pole and a second place. A great weekend's work here in Mandalika for Fabio Quartararo with Simon.
Fabio, you really have ridden like a champ the whole weekend, and including in conditions we didn't expect it. How do you feel?
I didn't expect to. To be honest, from the warm-up lap, I felt like we had something extra than normal, because we know that in the wet condition we are struggling always. But when it's full wet and grip, I know my potential in the wet, but today I make better than what I expect. So I saw an opportunity and I go for it. And super important points. And I think it's my first podium in the wet, so in the full wet. So I'm super happy. Thanks to the fans that were waiting a lot when we had the delay of the GP. So let's see. And super happy because we found something in the wet, and I'm enjoying so much. So thanks to everyone.
Congratulations, Fabio.
I think it's fair to say the world champion enjoyed his Sunday afternoon splash around Mandalika. It was hard work, it was tough mentally and physically, but he recovered from a couple of early setbacks, and this is where he really started to work his way through back into podium contention. A pretty hard move on Alex Rins. That was a scare when he'd almost lost the front on that puddle into the first corner on Joan Zarco. He was quick though to snap back on his fellow Frenchman. At times it was feisty between the French pair, but this was another key move on the inside of Jack Miller going into turn number 12. This was right at the point where Quartararo had a really good speed, the best speed of the Grand Prix, and Jack Miller was just missing that crucial grip as our world champion comes to congratulate our second Grand Prix winner here in 2022. A stunning performance that by Miguel Oliveira. Zarco said he just had that confidence to push right at the start of that Grand Prix, while the others were perhaps a little bit hesitant while they were waiting for those medium rain tyres to get up to temperature. Once they did, this man certainly had race-winning potential, but unfortunately by the time he got going, got into his rhythm, Oliveira had found an advantage of over 4 seconds. It did come down to 2.2, but here he is then, our first winner of an Indonesian Grand Prix in 25 years. Congratulations to Miguel Oliveira in Parc Fermé with Simon.
Miguel, you've just reminded everyone of the class you've got. We've seen many times in your career. What was the race like for you?
I mean, emotionally it was a roller coaster, because the start was perfect, and then, you know, in the wet it's so hard to judge where the limit is. So I followed Jack for a couple of laps, and then I understood that I could still go a bit faster. So when I overtook him, I just tried to focus for the next 5 laps to do the maximum as I could. Then I built a gap and was just managing throughout the whole race, but for sure was not easy. The last couple of months had not been easy for me, and so to be back like this with this incredible win is for sure, it's really emotional. I promised my daughter I would get her a trophy from Indonesia, so this one is for you, baby. And yeah, I want to dedicate this podium to a guy called Rizman. He's a staff in the hotel that I stayed. He has been supporting me the whole week, and the guy is a really nice guy. So yeah, as promised, I promised him if I went on the podium I would dedicate this to him. So Rizman, there you go. And let's go to Argentina. You know, see what we can do, keep up the level, but for now I'm just super happy to be here on the podium.
Huge congratulations, Miguel.
Yeah, top job, Miguel Oliveira. Great words as well after that famous victory here in Indonesia, and congratulations to Rizman. Obviously been a bit of an inspiration for Miguel Oliveira. Here he is then, starting from that third row in 7th place. What an electric start he had. This was the platform, the foundation for his victory challenge. We saw Brad Binder do this from 7th place in Doha. Alex Rins got in really, really hot, didn't he, into that first corner. Brad Binder likewise, but Oliveira tucked in early on behind Fabio Quartararo. Jack Miller came through as well. Not a bad reference in these rain conditions, was it, to follow Jack Miller so good in the wet. And this was the crucial moment, the race-winning overtake into turn 12. Great job by Miguel Oliveira, and this is the moment he takes a famous win here in Mandalika. He did rock Lombok. Huge congratulations. His father looks on. He did say he was going to take home a trophy for his new daughter. Well, he's been a man true to his word.
He's certainly done that today. Oliveira just 5 points off the World Championship lead. Of course, Oliveira didn't score in the opening Grand Prix of the season in Qatar, but he has certainly bounced back here this afternoon in Indonesia.
That's his 50th Premier Class start, Lewis. What a way to celebrate. He'd scored 9 points in the last 10 races. So in that Grand Prix, he scored more points in 20 laps than what he scored in the last 11 races. That just kind of shows you the journey that Miguel Oliveira has been on. Mid-season last year, when we were around, Mugello, Barcelona, Assen, we thought he was going to be a title contender, and then his form just completely disappeared. But I think it's fair to say he's back.
And what a journey KTM have been on as well. We touched on this in Qatar, how difficult their pre-season was looking at the first test in Sepang, but they certainly found a direction at the Mandalika test. Their season, in many ways, whatever KTM go on to achieve in 2022, they can certainly say that this circuit, this Podium Mandalika circuit, has played a key role in their fortunes in 2022. They found a direction at the test, and they leave the first ever Grand Prix around this circuit as constructors and teams championship leaders, with both of their riders within the top 4 and within 5 points of the Riders' Championship lead.
Well, I was going to say, we've had sun, sea, sand and speed here today, but sadly we've been lacking the sun. But we'll take it. We finally did get the MotoGP battle we were all hoping for. It was worth the wait, as we mentioned pre-race, over 8,900 days since our last Premier Class action here in Indonesia. The podium celebration are about to get underway. Oliveira, Quartararo and Zarco are coming to the podium here in Mandalika.
Please welcome to the podium. Winning construction, Sebastian Risi.
So KTM then, certainly in business, aren't they, at the start of the 2022 season. A second in Qatar and a victory here, as Francesco Guidotti pointed out to Simon downstairs. Johann Zarco then ending his podium drought. Fabio Quartararo, quite possibly the happiest man on the podium this afternoon. A real breakthrough for him in full wet conditions to take second place. But Miguel Oliveira, he was the master of Mandalika this afternoon, dominating the race from the moment he got past Jack Miller at the front of this Grand Prix. There was no catching him. A 4th career victory for him in MotoGP. Of course, they've all come in very different circumstances. The last lap, last corner overtake that took him to his first Grand Prix victory. The dominance of Portimao. The victory against the odds in some respects in Barcelona last year. And then a victory, a real dominant wet weather victory here, as the president of the Republic of Indonesia, Joko Widodo, passes over the trophies to our top 3. Johann Zarco, our 3rd place man. Fabio Quartararo in 2nd place. That's for the first time Fabio Quartararo has met him. He wasn't at the parade on Wednesday. Quartararo, one of the sweetest trophies and the most precious 20 points he's perhaps picked up in his career. But Miguel Oliveira then, he is your race winner. The president hands over the trophy. It took us 25 years, but it was certainly worth the wait, and magnificent Miguel mastered the wet conditions in Mandalika this afternoon.
So our first visit to Indonesia ends in joy and triumph for the factory KTM team. It's the race win and his 50th MotoGP start for 27-year-old Portuguese rider Miguel Oliveira, 16th career win, 4th in the MotoGP World Championship. His first podium since the Sachsenring. Feels like a long, long wait, doesn't it? Last summer in Germany.